Over the past 15 years, I've identified 3 key mistakes that are often made by negotiators which significantly impact the value that they get from their negotiations. Do you make any of these mistakes? Hi, I'm Potgieter, founder of JPA. And here at JPA, we are expert business negotiators who help professional buyers and sellers to gain clarity, confidence, and the skills and tools they need to blast past their objectives. So the first mistake that I've seen that is so often made even by professional negotiators is that they think of negotiation as an event rather than a process. They think the negotiation starts when they sit down at the table. So if you look at it from a buyer's perspective or a seller's perspective, often we look at the sales process or the buying process and it looks like something like this. It's a request for information. If you look at the buyers from a buyer's perspective, then it moves to request for proposal. Then we create a short list, and only then do we start negotiations, or so we think. On the sell side, we think, we prospect, then we qualify, we identify some needs, then we submit a proposal, and then we get to the negotiation phase. If that's the way you've been thinking, you've been missing huge opportunities to optimize your negotiation outcome. So it's really good news. If that's the way that you've thought about negotiation, if you thought about it as an event rather than a process, there's only upside for you. The negotiation starts the moment you first contact somebody, because you have the opportunity then to frame the negotiation, to manage expectations through the way that you anchor your needs and your expectations for the meeting of those needs from your counterpart's perspective. So if you're a pro negotiator, you understand that negotiation is a process, it's not an event. Unfortunately, there are many purchasing methodologies and sales methodologies that isolate negotiation as an event rather than a process. If that's one that you follow, well, there's only good news for you. You have a fantastic opportunity to increase the value that you get from your negotiations right away by making sure that every step of the negotiation process is supported by the application of negotiation best practice. So every step of your sales process, every step of your purchasing process should be underpinned by the application of negotiation best and leading practices, right? The second mistake that I see people make, and I see this mistake made probably by 90% of negotiators, is what they do is they approach negotiation by default rather than by design. They're led only by their experience, they're led only by their preferences, and what that does is it prevents them from bringing proper rigor to preparation for their negotiation. They lose their teachability. They lose humility to learn. If you're in that position, if you're not prepared to learn anymore, if you think you've mastered something, you will never get really, really good at it. You look at any pro in the sports field, any pro in theater, any pro in business, they're always looking to improve what they're doing, regardless of the success that they've achieved. If this is you, if you've fallen back, if you've become content with your position, if you've become content just repeating the way that you negotiate things, or doing things the same time or the same way every time you negotiate, once again, there's good news for you. You have significant opportunity to improve your outcomes by becoming teachable, by looking for small things that you can change so that you can bring design to the way that you negotiate. That you rather approach every negotiation based on the strategies and the tools and the tactics that are needed to meet the specific demands of that negotiation, rather than just going back to your default. Here's the third and final mistake that I see that's so often made by negotiators, is that they don't prepare in a way that's consistent. Number one, most people, quite frankly, don't prepare nearly enough for their negotiations. As a matter of fact, we've done the research. More than 80% of people spend about 10 minutes preparing for a 60-minute or a 1-hour negotiation, right? If you're prepared for negotiation, you should be preparing at least in a ratio of 1-to-1. So 1 hour's worth of negotiation should be preceded by 1 hour's worth of preparation. But here's the thing. When you don't bring consistency, when you don't bring clarity or structure to the way that you prepare for negotiation, you have no means of measurement. Basic management theory says it's impossible for you to improve something unless you measure it. If you're trying to run or improve your time for running the 100 meters, you're not going to know if you get better at running the 100 meters unless you measure the time, right? So you have to prepare in the same way for your negotiations in a way that's consistent. You have to have a standardized framework that you use to underpin your preparations for negotiation, because that's the only way that you're going to measure if you're getting better or not at the way that you're negotiating. So I hope you're not making any of these mistakes. If you are, of course, it's only good news because you now have the opportunity to remedy it. Hope that's helped you. Here's to your success.